Yesterday, a video reportedly linked to ISIS was posted stating that as we struck France in the center of its abode in Paris, then we swear that we will strike America at its center in Washington. Now, there is little doubt that ISIS views the United States and the West as a strategic enemy, and there's little doubt that our immigration laws, our lawful immigration laws, have been abused on a number of occasions by people intending to perpetrate harm against the United States. Do you agree with what your own FBI Director, James Comey, told this committee regarding the inability to adequately vet and confirm the true identity because of the lack of information, databases, law enforcement resources, intelligence resources, and military resources available to us in Syria of Syrians who have applied for refugee resettlement in the United States?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect to that important issue, as I've indicated, the most important priority of the Department of Justice is the protection of the American people, and certainly national security and terrorism are one of my own top priorities and certainly an area of concern for all of us. That is certainly our main concern. At the same time, we do have a system for allowing not just immigration, but refugee entrance into the country. As the FBI Director has noted, there is a process in place that allows for significant vetting of refugees from all countries.
Well, let me interrupt because he said something contrary with regard to the situation with Syrians. He said, we can query our database till the cows come home, but there'll be nothing to show up because we have no record on that person.
Certainly with respect to the databases that the Director was referring to, as he noted, I believe, before this committee, there is a screening process that has data from several different agencies. The FBI participates, Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, National Counterterrorism Center, and much information is vetted and queried. Certainly a lot of the information that is vetted does have to be inputted into the system.
In the case of Syria, you can't go to the government offices in that country. They're in disarray. You can't go interview people who know people who are applying for this status. Do you disagree with the FBI Director when he says that vetting Syrian refugees is extremely difficult, if not impossible?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure he said it was impossible. Certainly, not only the Department of Justice, but all of our agencies will make every effort to vet every refugee coming into this country, from the databases to the interviews that those individuals are subject to the biometric screening as well.
Let me go on.
Certainly, there are challenges to that process because of the situation in Syria. But I would note, however, that we do have the benefit of having that significant and robust screening process in place, a process that Europe has not been able to set up, which renders them much more vulnerable.
Well, I think we'll be vulnerable, too, when it comes to people from Syria when we can't get access to those databases because the country is in disarray and we can't even gather information fresh, new, because we can't access the people that we could talk to. Let me move on to another topic. The latest available data from the Justice Department shows that during fiscal year 2015, the government reported 6,002 new weapons convictions. This number is down 5.8% from the previous fiscal year when the number of convictions totaled 6,373. Compared to 5 years ago when there were 7,101 weapons convictions, the number for fiscal year 2015 is down 15.5%. Convictions over the past year are lower than they were 10 years ago. Overall, the data show that convictions of this type, weapons violations, are down 34.8% from the level of 9,206 reported in 2005. The President has repeatedly called for new gun control laws, yet your department has seen weapons prosecutions and convictions fall to levels not seen in over a decade. How do you explain such a precipitous drop in weapon prosecutions and convictions under this administration? And why is such little emphasis placed on these types of prosecutions when the President has called for yet more laws when the current laws are not being enforced?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question. With regard to the Department of Justice enforcement of the gun laws, we take those gun laws very seriously and are committed to using the full panoply of laws and regulations on the books. We typically use those laws at the federal level in conjunction with our many and numerous violent crime initiatives. For example, in my former position as U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of New York, many of our gang cases also carried with them firearms charges. They would not necessarily be the lead charge. They may not be reflected in the data that you have, but they certainly are an important tool in every prosecutor's arsenal in combating violent crime.
Then why aren't they being prosecuted for those violations?
I'm sorry, sir?
Then why aren't they being prosecuted for those violations related to firearms? And by the way, this doesn't just mean using a firearm in the commission of crime. It also means illegal sales of firearms. It means lying on the instant check system, of which the last year for which we have complete data, 76,000 people were found to have committed the felony of swearing to false information on that form. 5,000 were referred to for prosecution, but the 94 U.S. attorneys' offices across the country could only find time to prosecute 62 out of 76,000. So somebody going into a gun store to buy a weapon knows that even if they're caught, and often they're not caught because the system doesn't have all the information it needs in it, but even if they're caught, they often find that the odds are 1 in 1,000 that they'll be prosecuted even when they're caught. What are you doing about that? What should be done about it? And why has this decline been so precipitous over the last several years?
Well, Congressman, with respect to the types of cases that are prosecuted, as I indicated, a lot of the firearms prosecutions are done in conjunction with our violent crime program, and they may not show up in your statistics as the lead charges. They are a significant part of the arsenal that every federal prosecutor utilizes. Most recently, I've convened a summit with the top elected officials, police chiefs, and leaders of major cities to talk about violent crime that's currently taking place in several major cities, with a focus on finding the causes and finding the best ways to direct federal resources to those particular cities.
Can we expect these prosecutions to go up as a result of that?
Congressman, what we do is we look at the root causes of violence in a particular area. If, for example, the firearms were the main issue there, we would focus our efforts there. We follow the facts
Not necessarily
and the
prosecute for
evidence.
the gun violation. So if that's the case, would you agree with me then that it doesn't make sense to add new gun laws when we already have hundreds of them that are not being enforced today, and you don't seem to anticipate an increase in the use of those current laws to prosecute people who misuse firearms?
I think at this point it would be difficult to speculate as to what numbers would look like in a year with respect to any particular criminal program. What I would say is the Department of Justice is committed to using the full panoply of laws that are currently on the books as part of our violent crime initiative, as part of our desire to keep all communities safe, and that does include our firearms laws.
I want to cover one more topic that concerns me greatly. During the FBI's investigation of the IRS matter, the President stated on Super Bowl Sunday that there was not, quote, even a smidgen of corruption at the IRS. At the end of that investigation, no charges were filed. 2 weeks ago, the President stated with respect to Secretary Clinton's emails, quote, this is not a situation in which America's national security was endangered, end quote. Should we expect that when the FBI finishes its investigation of this matter, that no charges will be filed? Does the Department allow statements by the President to dictate its investigative practices?
Mr. Chairman, the Department reviews facts and evidence submitted before it. We apply the law to those facts and evidence. We take all the appropriate steps in every matter that we review. And that is how we will essentially manage every matter under our purview, whether it relates to the IRS, to an email matter, or every matter that comes before us. And with respect to the President's comments, they have no influence or bearing on how the Department manages these matters, and I would have to refer you to him for a review of those.
I'm glad to hear you say that. In your view, wasn't it inappropriate for the President to once again inject his personal views into an ongoing FBI investigation?
Mr. Chairman, I really don't have a comment on the President's expression of his views.
He's a Chief Executive Officer of the United States, and everything that operates within the executive branch is under his purview, including the very important independent nature of the FBI in conducting its investigations. Wouldn't it be better if the President of the United States did not comment on the merits of those investigations while they're going on?
Mr. Chairman, I really don't have a comment on the President's statements.
Thank you very much. Chair